Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk 101.1 FM. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Let them know what they are in for.
Oh, we'll talk a little sports here and there. Round
That is what we
two
do.
kicked off in the NBA playoffs last night. There was some interesting baseball. We got some NFL news. Plus, it's Tuesday. So we'll be talking to our boy 24KG at 8 o'clock. And I'm sure he's got some stuff he wants to get off his chest.
Oh, we know it.
And you can call or text in anytime throughout the show at 661-842-2000.
We will get into the departures of the new day and some of the MFTs with our guy KG. Plus, Backlash is this weekend. We may double up with KG this week on Friday with our guy Chris Flail as well, just to give you guys a little bit of a, four-person panel, talk a little wrestling at the end of the week. But it's time for the restart of the season for the WWE, the restart for professional wrestling. That's why you're seeing a lot of these young up-and-comers come up. Sol Ruka finally got to sign her contract last night, and it looks like we're going to be seeing her in a title match very, very soon against Sparky's. Well, I almost called her man, but it's called
man.
The Man. But I mean, okay, fine. If that's the way we're going to put it, fine. Sparky's man, Becky Lynch.
It's never good to kick off your contract with a flubber.
No, it's not. But you know what? She's young. It could be worse. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're right. Tongaloa is definitely one that you could talk about in that way. Coming back to the WWE after a long hiatus, and the first thing we see is one of the biggest, and I hate using this word, but there's no other word to use in this situation, botches of a situation that became a meme for a while, and then he kind of faded off, but the botches never stopped. And I thought it was funny because I was watching a video yesterday and one of the talking heads put it beautifully. It's actually kind of poetic that the last thing we see of Tongaloa, probably in the WWE forever, to be honest with you, because this man's in his 40s, and I don't see them really extending another contract to him. Because again, like I told you guys, usually you get about 2 go-rounds with the WWE, and he's gotten 2. So highly doubt they go for a 3. But it's kind of poetic that the first thing that we saw this man come back and do was a botch. And the last thing we saw this man do on television was a botch as he laid on the wrong part of the table before Jacob Fatu put him through the table. I love the man. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of him and the Gorillas of Destiny and his brother Tamatanga, who is still with the company. But I not gonna lie, as I told you guys yesterday, I wasn't very surprised to see the MFTs.
I was kind of happy with it because they were running dry for months. Right. And I was telling my wife, "Oh, look, you're gonna have to check out this Sol Ruka," and then the first thing she sees is,
But again, wait till you actually get to see her in a match because I think
we've
it's going
seen
to
her. She fought a couple times.
Oh, that's true. We did see her against Bailey a couple weeks
ago. Right. What is it? The
Soul Snatcher.
That's a dope ass move.
Oh, it's one of the best finishers in wrestling today.
And of course, if anyone's going to put her up on a pedestal, it's going to be the man.
Absolutely. And she is going to be catapulted into the next level. And that's what we can't wait to talk about with our guy KG. And for those of you who don't know what a Soul Snatcher is and don't follow wrestling, this is one of the cooler moves of new generation wrestling. If you know what a cutter is essentially an RKO. When someone runs up, grabs you by the head, your chin is pretty much placed right on the shoulder, and the idea is to make it look like their chin hit your shoulder while the rest of the body hits the mat. What Soul does is that she will run up to the corner of the ring, or really anywhere that she can make this work because she is a former gymnast. She will run up the corner and do a backflip while catching you and doing a cutter at the same time. I have never seen anybody do this on a consistent basis. And the minute she broke this out in NXT, she became a superstar. And there's a reason that it's been this good for her. And she's been now a year or 2 since that day. And now on the main roster, she's going to be so much fun to watch.
Well, she will be. I'm looking forward to her matches, maybe with Tiffy.
Yes.
Because that would be a hell of a match, just both with gymnasts and the flips they do. I think it'll be a great match whenever we see it. But her and, of course, they have to introduce her to Becky.
Naturally.
And okay.
I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to get into this with our guy KG, although the tag team division is being absolutely gutted right now, after last night, I think the WWE is going to start going into a realm that they've never done before, and that's trios matches. They are really setting up a lot of trios, and honestly, it would fit better for a lot of their factions because most of their factions are 3 people anyway. So we'll get into that with our KG at 8:00. We'll stop boring you with that.
And before we get into basketball, because I know that's where we're gonna start.
Of
How
course.
about the Mariners, baby?
Yeah, you guys are on
How
fire.
about the
And
Mariners?
you know what? I'll say it too. How about my Phils? Because we've actually figured out how to win a baseball game again. Apparently, all it takes is firing our manager every single time because it happened last time, and now it happened with Rob. But hey, whatever it takes to turn the dang season around and start winning some freaking baseball games,
play
that's all that
Miami.
matters to me.
Let's play Miami.
I mean,
Unless you're a Dodger fan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Dodgers had a little bit of a rough standing with
But
that
no,
squad.
our boy Drewski felt like he had to text me and talk some trash before the game started, and I just sent him the Mariners logo and said, "Okay, good luck, bro."
Love and miss you, Drewski. Haven't talked to him in a while, but honestly, I love seeing it. I love seeing Seattle hot. I love seeing Philly hot. Honestly, the Dodgers are still the Dodgers, even though they're fighting right now for the supremacy of the NL West. Will that happen later on in the season? Probably not. I expect the Padres to hit a lull at some point, but
And
it's
then
still fun baseball.
Right after our boy Trevor leaves, I hear, "Oh, Scooble's out for months." I was
You know what's funny is I was talking to him about that before, and I meant to bring it up during the segment, but there has been kind of some swirlings of rumors that his elbow hasn't necessarily been up to par, and they were gonna probably need surgery, and that sucks for a contract year for him because now you're gonna have to essentially make this deal off the back of, is he gonna be the pitcher that we used to have?
Well, don't worry. If not, the Dodgers will pay him.
No kidding. And that's what I told him yesterday. That's what I told Trevor. I said, look, man, it's Tarek Skubal. If this guy had Tommy John tomorrow, he'd still be Tarek Skubal. He'd still be a multi-time Cy Young winner. Pay the man. He's literally been the best piece of your team since he stepped up into that role, 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago? So pay the man. Like, you're so willing to pay these young kids that just got to the team. Granted, McGonigal is going nuts right now and has an OPS in the 8s, which is unheard of in baseball. But he just got there. And you dropped a 9-year, $150-something million contract on him. So why can't you do it to the guy who's proven himself up at this level to the point of, I don't know, being named the best pitcher of your entire league? It just makes sense. Put the money down, pay the man, and stop the Dodgers from pulling off another superstar. Because you're absolutely right, Sparky. If they don't sign him, there's one team that will. And I wish I could sit there and say it's my Phils, but it's not. I doubt the Phillies actually reach out for that because they're starting to feel the pressure of the Bryce Harper, Trey Turner contracts. But
I would love him in Seattle, but I don't see that happening either.
I think a lot of teams would love Tarek on their rotation.
All I could think of is if you don't pay him, the Dodgers will.
Right. So now he's getting elbow surgery to figure out to handle what's going on with him there. I assume he'll be back for the later part of the season. This isn't a season-ending injury or anything like that, but still, that means you're going to have a month or two of play from him if you're not in the playoff situation or in a playoff hunt. Obviously, you'll have him for the playoffs, I would assume, but still, we're sitting here wondering if you're going to pay this guy on the year we're all going to be waiting on this CBS or CBA deal to get done anyway. Set the tone right, set the tone correctly, and honestly, set the tone before you can't set the tone again. And pay this man a ridiculous contract like the Dodgers did to Shohei. Pay him for about 12 years down the line before you can't do that anymore. And then it's all good. It's all gravy. The Detroit Tigers have their pitcher for the foreseeable future. But watch, they're just going to blow this. They're just going to throw it away, and he's not going to get the money.
Too.
They're not going to get paid. And honestly, I have more baseball news as well for those of you who are interested, because we have an update from the Alec Bohm situation against his parents. And yeah, I'm not going to lie. When I read what led to the parents kind of trying to tighten up their son, it's traditional stuff. So we'll get into that at some point during the show. But we do need to start in the NBA because we had 2 round 2 games yesterday. And honestly, I told you guys the Knicks were going to come out firing. I told you guys the Knicks were not going to have a very rough game one because obviously the Philadelphia 76ers just had to play a game 7 yesterday against the Boston Celtics. Or I'm sorry, 2 days ago against the Boston Celtics. And for some reason, the league decided, we're not going to give them the time necessary to rest. We're just going to tell you, hey, get on a plane, go to New York. You guys got about 2 days. It was nuts, but I had a feeling this would happen. The Knicks continue their incredible offensive onslaught in this playoff run, 137-98 last night. It really looked competitive in the first half, but the second half just looked like a completely different game. But I told you guys the Sixers team was going to be coming in tired against a team that's been sitting there waiting for an opponent. So they knew they were going to be at a disadvantage. Games 2, 3, and 4, the ones coming up here soon, are going to be the big game changers. I realize statistically, whoever wins game 1 most likely wins the series. But 2, 3, and 4 here going forward, if the Knicks can't solidify, especially game 2 at home, we could be seeing the 76ers turn this series around when the legs start coming back and the Knicks' legs start falling off when they have to play this team a couple times in a row. What say you?
They've gotten some rest, and
True.
even last night they got some rest. So
yeah,
I mean, personally, I understand, quick games with a day of rest and probably half of that day on a plane. And I mean, just from what I've seen over the season, I think the Knicks will get this probably in 5 or 6, but the Sixers, I mean, I don't think they even had a mindset or a game plan because they tried to feed Joel, and that's not going to work in this series. This isn't Boston. They've got some big guys that can actually guard him.
Right.
And I think the Knicks team is playing hot right now. I don't know if they can keep it up for the whole series, but the Knicks are going to be a team to watch in the East.
If I had to really put this series on someone's back, I feel like it has to be on the back of VJ Edgecombe, because we know we're going to get the games from Maxey. You're going to get solid shooting. I know last night was a slow day for him. I think he ended with 17, but he's going to be back scoring at least 20 to 30 points, most likely in game 2 and 3. If you can get VJ Edgecombe to have the same, if not similar, contribution to the lead, this could be a good way to turn that series around. Because yes, they have one guard in Jalen Brunson, who, again, kind of skeptical when it comes to defense unless he gets angry and actually wants to play defense, which just seems to be the case with a lot of these players.
Yeah, and when you're up 30, you really don't need to.
True.
But I will say I was wondering where the hell Edgecombe was last night, because I was like, where the hell? I saw more of Paul George, which I was happy with.
He gets lost in the offense.
He does.
He does. And it can be criminal at times, especially with how good of an offensive player he is. But also you have to, or at least me looking at it saying, he's the rookie in this situation, playing with 4 other guys who are well established in the league. I won't necessarily count Kelly Oubre, even though he is, Kelly Oubre at one point with the Warriors.
George and Maxey, and
yeah, when you have guys like George and Joel and Maxey to rely on, it's easy to kind of get lost in the sauce, but that's kind of why I think that this series could be a great opportunity for him as a whole to really step up and become that guard pairing with Maxey that they were hoping this is going to become.
He's a game changer, dude.
Oh, easy.
I love that kid.
And that's why I'm saying, like, if you can really take all of that and take his offensive power here and pair it with Maxey having his usual night, it'll be hard for the Knicks to keep up, especially if you can get playoff P at some point in time in some sort of fashion. But again, I agree with you. I don't think funneling the ball through Joel is going to be the really driving point in this series. I think Joel was 3 of 11 last night.
He was flustered.
I still chalk it up to them being somewhat not rested because, again, they just had to beat up on the Celtics the game before in Boston. So
they'll get some rest. They'll get home.
Right.
I'm more interested in this Cavs Pistons series.
Yeah, that's
starting off tonight, because I want to see what team comes out, if the rest is helpful or if Detroit is going to get lazy like they did in the first round.
It's possible. Again, much like the VJ Edgecombe situation, I more blame the laziness, like you said it, as just inexperience. I think that it's more these guys have never been in that kind of a situation. I mean, I know they were in the playoffs last year, but that's more of like a rubbing effect. You know, it's like, oh, hey, look, we're finally here kind of a thing. Now you're here for a second year in a row, especially as a number one seed. It's a completely different ball game. You now have the target on your back rather than being the young up and coming team that's looking to take the shot at the target. So with that kind of pop in the mouth, as it were, especially with a team like Orlando, who's rough, tough defensively, and honestly was looking for that one season to bust through the wall that they've been going at for the last couple of years as well. It just kind of was a perfect cocktail of, you know, this wasn't going to work out as easily as they thought. The positive for them is something that I've said a couple times, and as a Cleveland fan, I'll say it again. We have not seen the most or the best of this Cleveland Cavaliers team, and I don't know if you're going to. I think this is going to be one of those teams that we sit there and look at and said, man, what could have been if James Harden and Donovan Mitchell could have been healthy at the same time, if Evan Mobley could have been playing this good as he did a couple years ago, when, you know, a couple years down the line, we're looking back at this. I just don't think this team is going to hit that ceiling. I just don't. There's something about this year, whether again it's the injury to Donovan Mitchell he's playing through, or just the inconsistencies of James Harden and Evan Mobley. I really just don't feel like this Cleveland team has the juice to really play at that level, which means Detroit has a really good chance at sending them home. They really do. Because if they could play solid defensively and Cade Cunningham goes off for 40, what are they going to do? Because at that point, they're probably going to be down by 15, looking at either James Harden or Donovan Mitchell to step up to be that game changer, and they're not going to be able to do it. So again, maybe this is just me being a pessimistic Cavs fan, but
I mean, on paper, the Cavs have the matchups. They have everything. But like you said yesterday, I mean, they're going up against their former coach that pretty much put the core together for Cleveland before he left. And congratulations, he got his extension yesterday.
Yes, he did. Even though they didn't say how long. They just said he got extended.
A long-term deal. That's all it said.
I mean, again, I agree with you. Kudos to JB, but at the same time, why can't we know how long this extension is?
I just hope it's a good series, because if I turn the game on and someone's up by 30, I'm like, all right.
Well. But see, that's what I'm saying, because I think you said it perfectly. On paper, Cleveland should have this series handed. On paper, Cleveland was supposed to be the number one team in the East this year and ended up fourth. And that's not because the roster wasn't talented. It's because they have yet to put this together.
And both teams going through a 7-game series in the first round. I want to see who shows up.
Exactly. And that's going to be huge, is which team has more juice, which one has more energy. And the Pistons being the younger team, I think it kind of bodes better for them, because traditionally that's the team that does come out with more energy. Now, which team can sustain that energy is also going to be huge. So we'll see. And now with Cleveland playing at a disadvantage, as we saw, it was really hard for them, if almost impossible for them to win a game on the road. So they're going to have to steal one away, if not tonight in Detroit. They have to, because you're not going to win 3 out of the 4 games in Detroit. You could probably win all 3 of your home games, but you're not going to take more than 1 away from Detroit at home. There's no way. I just can't see that happening. Then the other game that surprised me last night, because I can't believe that the Minnesota Timberwolves actually pulled it off, but they did, and they beat the Spurs last night. What was the final? 102-104 or something like that. It was very close. And Anthony Edwards coming back off of injury, playing off the bench, doing everything he possibly could. I love what I'm seeing from this Minnesota Timberwolves team, just the rough, tough nature of how they're playing. Julius Randle is stepping up and playing 40 minutes when asked. That's huge for them. And I'm not ready to call him a legitimate center, but I am ready to at least admit that Rudy Gobert is probably the best defensive center in the league. Now, and I know everybody like saying, dude, you're an idiot. Hear me out. He held Victor to about 11 points last night. Actually, no, it was more than that. But regardless, it was very low points. Now, Victor also had 12 blocks.
A record.
But 5 for 17 shooting, 0 for 8 from 3. I mean, and they won the game. He slowed them down enough where they won the game. You have to give them credit.
Yeah, they got a game.
They got a game out of it. And again, I'm just talking about with Cleveland. You needed one. That's all you need. Now just win your other 3 at home. Don't pull a Celtics. Wrap this up in 6.
I think they're in trouble.
You think the Timberwolves are in trouble still?
I think the Timberwolves are in trouble.
Why is that?
What I saw, the Spurs looked lazy in the second half. I mean, even surprising, they looked lazy, and I think that was the bitch slap that they needed to wake them up, because Wemby looked so upset after the game, which he should be. I mean, he was kind of handcuffed most of that game, besides the blocks, which were craziness. But I think San Antonio is just waking up, and I think this series is going to be one to watch.
Am I the only one that was looking at the crowd in San Antonio and wondering why there were so many empty seats?
Right.
And like, don't get me wrong, it's a Monday in San Antonio, so I get it. I mean, everybody's got other stuff to do. But it's a Monday in San Antonio in the round 2 of the playoffs. Were there ever games where Tim Duncan and all these other guys were playing and they had seats open? Nope. Especially seats open at television level.
Yeah, the good seats.
Yeah, the good seats, exactly. Like, you would assume the stadium would just tell the people from up top, hey, we're going to upgrade your seats. Come on down here so we can fill up the TV section area. Like, I don't know if there were just so many people walking around the stadium at that point and they were just bored with the game, or they just didn't show up. I assumed that people were walking around because the t-shirts that they keep giving these guys weren't on the seats at the same time, which tells me someone showed up and took the t-shirt and bounced. Yeah. But to have it look like, honestly, a mid-grade college basketball game on television, and I'm sure there were more people up in the stands that we didn't see, but that was the first. Yeah, I hope. But that was the first thing that I noticed watching this game was, why is there so much empty space? It looks like a game out when we were playing at the bubble. It looked like a COVID game. There were so many empty seats. I just was baffled by that. Am I alone? I thought it was weird.
I thought maybe there was a promotion. They're all running out to the snack bar or something, but it was throughout the whole game.
Yeah, because I was like, I turned it on, admittedly, like late second quarter. So I was watching through and I was paying attention during the third. And I said, okay, it's still kind of lax, but maybe there's people coming in and out. But you're right. Throughout the entire game, those seats never got filled. So it's like, does San Antonio forget to promote their basketball game for people to actually buy these tickets? Did they even have enough time to buy the tickets, I guess? I don't know why that stadium looked the way it did. But regardless, they ended up losing the game anyway. So maybe the city of San Antonio just knew something we didn't. And they all just said, you know what? We're going to wait for game 2 when they're really going to show up and they're really going to actually tear this, stadium's roof off. I can't wait to see how this series continues, especially if we can get Anthony Edwards back to a full 100% play, because him off the bench just looks weird. It really does look weird. But if that's what they need to win this game, if McDaniels can continue this absolute tear he's on, if Julius Randle can continue to play at the level he's playing, they could take this series. They really could. And that's crazy from what I was saying yesterday, because everything in my mind yesterday was saying San Antonio wins this in about 6. No disrespect to Minnesota, but San Antonio just looked more talented. Plus, as we talked about yesterday, there's a 7'5" alien that plays in San Antonio that could shoot a 3-pointer and do pretty much anything you ask him to do on a basketball court, including get 12 blocks. That was so crazy. I mean, I didn't even realize how many he had, but I should have with watching that entire game, because it seemed like any time they tried to get into the rim, he was right there to block it. It was an absolutely incredible game defensively from Victor Wembanyama. But again, as I said earlier, and I will give all the credit in the world to our guy Chris Flail when he's in here on Friday.
Well, hopefully by then they'll be down 2-1.
Angry Rudy might be the key. That's wild to say, but he might be the key. And imagine if we get like a Timberwolves Knicks final. One, it would just be fun to watch just because of Karl Anthony Towns having to play against his former team and see if Rudy Gobert can slow him down. But a Knicks Minnesota final, I don't think anybody was prepared for. I don't think anybody was expecting.
What was it? One of the listeners said Knicks Lakers.
Uh,
I mean,
Again, I'm sorry, Laker fan. Tonight could change all of that for me. It really could. It really, if LeBron came out tonight and absolutely routed the Thunder and we were looking at a 1-0 lead for the Lakers, I'd say you guys are onto something here and we could see the Lakers sneak in. But there's a big piece of me that's just like, no, there's no way. There's just, especially without Luka, like,
I think they looked better without him.
true, especially defensively because Luka doesn't play great defense. But the offensive powerhouse that Luka is, you're missing his 30 points. Easy. And that I think is going to be the difference in this series because as much as people love to hate LeBron, he usually steps up in the playoffs. But if you don't have a star that could score 30 points and the other team does, like an SGA, very rarely can you beat that team.
Yeah, even with Luka, I don't think they have a chance. So
No, none at all.
nah.
I think they would have a better chance if they had him. But as it sits
and
right now,
I think it would be horrible timing to even throw him in because they're actually playing good basketball.
yeah.
You throw in Luka, and then everyone's like, okay, we have to feed Luka. We have to feed Luka. And they get away from their game plan. They get away from their offense. Well, we'll see. Hopefully it's a good series, but I'm with you. I think OKC's got this.
I really do. It's hard for me to vote against OKC right now when they're playing so good and have all season long. And before we go to our first break of the day, since we're talking about injured players playing injured, and again, kudos to Anthony Edwards for playing injured and actually trying to step up for his team. Jason should be learning something from this. Mr. Tatum should be learning something from this. Although it's a positive for haters of the Celtics like myself and Sparky to love the fact that the Celtics lost that game 7 with Jason Tatum sitting on the bench watching with right knee stiffness. Sounds so soft when I say it out loud. It really does. But take this into account. Real stars, real studs, real guys who idolized guys like Kobe, like an Anthony Edwards, they play on that kind of thing. You decided to let your team play by themselves. If you weren't going to be there, why'd you show back up in the first place? Not to cycle back around to Jason Tatum, but watching Anthony Edwards play off the bench yesterday just put a big old sour taste in my mouth. Because I'm sitting there saying, Anthony showed up for a game 1 on a bad knee, and you couldn't show up for a game 7. That's just wild to say out loud. Let's take a break. We'll get into some other stuff on the other side. Like I said, we have an update from the Alec Bohm situation as the Philadelphia Phillies third baseman continues his legal battle against his parents. And his parents have put in some new information to the story that kind of shed some light on why they felt uncomfortable with their son's funds being handled by a third party financier. And I would love to get Sparky's thoughts on this as well, because the crux of their argument is they're trying to get the lawsuit moved or essentially just put or taken place, I should say, in Florida, where most of the LLCs actually are funded and, managed, where Alec Bohm and his representation are trying to get this done in Pennsylvania. So there's a lot to this, but I want to bounce it off Sparky, being as he is one of the money wise radio guys, helpers, whatever we want to really
Helpers.
Well, I don't know. What is your position with them over there?
I'm
I
the
apologize.
senior media coordinator.
Senior media coordinator. Okay, so you're at least more handled to talk about this than I, being around men who talk about this a little bit more. So
I can't believe this story's still around.
I said the same thing, but the more information that comes out about this, the more it just kind of makes me think, okay, this is just some crazy parents that don't want to let go. But again, we'll get into that as soon as we can, plus some other stories as well. Stefon Diggs starts his legal battle against his former chef and apparently former friends with benefits, from what we understand. And the SEC has decided they're going to adopt the ABS system for their championship tournament. We'll get into all of that at some point before we get to KG at the 8 o'clock hour and talk some wrestling. This is the early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. Welcome back. Early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk 101.1 FM, 12:30 AM. Pretty sure we're the only sports show where you'll hear metal. Although I do think Kyle tries to throw it into Greg sometimes. Sometimes I don't know if Greg knows who he's playing at points of the show, but I do hear him throw it in there sometimes. And then, real quick before I continue, did I accidentally turn the lights off when I walked out of your studio right now?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, I looked in there and the lights turned off, and I said, "Did I do that? Like, did I accidentally
do that?
I did not mean to do that. If I did, I apologize."
Turn it dark. Cool.
Let's get into some of these wild stories of the day, even though it's not a wild thing Wednesday. But we do have an update from the Alec Bohm situation as he continues his judicial battle against his parents. If you weren't with us when this story first started back in March, Alec Bohm, the Philadelphia Phillies third baseman, is currently in a legal dispute with his parents, Daniel and Lisa. Daniel and Lisa apparently assist in managing some LLCs for Alec that are based in Florida. Alec is claiming that his parents took money out of those LLCs for personal use. He's seeking about $3 million through the court, and then an extra 500,000 that they have proof that his parents took right before this court case started. And Alec's representation is claiming that they took the money as a quote unquote war chest to essentially pay for their legal representation for these battles. They are claiming that the money has been taken to manage the bills that go along with LLCs. I don't know a whole ton about that. Sparky, I know you guys work with the Money Wise guys. Are there major bills that go with LLCs like this
Well,
that
I'm
would
sure.
make sums of over $500,000?
I'm sure. I mean,
Okay.
if it depends on how much money is involved, and I mean,
Because we're talking about
it'd
millions
be
of dollars
difficult.
here.
Exactly. You bring up 3 million that he's. I mean, that means he's probably a lot more in there.
Yes.
I personally wouldn't know the exact. Depending,
Numbers.
I would have to know the numbers.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I mean, it's
I
kind
mean,
of
maybe
fishy. It is
maybe I
definitely
could
fishy.
maybe I could scrounge up some information on his contracts because he really hasn't been in the league that long. He's only been in the league, I think, 9 years.
So I
Eight,
mean, with the
9 years, maybe.
LLCs, he's got some type of business.
Yes. Well, what it is these LLCs are meant for future oh god, what's the word I'm looking for? Investments, future investments,
Mhm.
and like real estate, stuff like that for post baseball stuff for Alec. That's what all of this was supposed to be based on. And with new information that we now know into this case, because representation of the parents have filed in like just their own side of the story, essentially, they're claiming, because again, mind you, all of this really started when Alec had his own financial advisor that the parents didn't like and kind of strong armed him into hiring a new one that they knew and were okay with.
Which seems like a parent thing to do.
Absolutely. And the reasoning for that is what kind of came with this new information. They're claiming that they felt uneasy that a third party could or would be managing their son's funds. And a parent would feel that way. I get it. But there are some things in this case that don't necessarily make me feel like that was their full intention. And here are a couple reasons
Like
for it.
traveling the world.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Daniel and Lisa travel the world in an RV apparently. And mind you, Daniel and Lisa were also managing all of Alec's bills and funds in that area. So all of his car payments, all of his PG&E and all that type of stuff was most likely being paid by mom and dad. Or well,
With his money.
with his money. Yeah, or majority of his money. They also have a 10% stake in his LLCs, but at the same time told Alec that he was the sole manager of his money. Okay,
Makes sense.
that would make sense. They also told him that because they were uneasy about the third party, that this new person was going to be managing his money along with them. Makes sense. You should be able to trust that. But recently, Alec has apparently taken on a girlfriend. And Alec's girlfriend wants to move in. And Alec's girlfriend doesn't want to move into a house that's owned by an LLC that's essentially owned by his parents.
10%.
10%. Okay, I've seen stories like this happen a million times over in regular people's lives. So, okay, this would all make sense, right? The only thing that's really making this smell weird to me, Sparky, is that when Alex signed on to the initial manager of his funds, the person that they had him fire, when he was 21 years old, when he started his contract, they opened a bank account that all three of them were going to have management too. Now, I don't know about you or anybody who's listening to my voice right now. Alec was 20, 21 at the time. Now, your kid can be incredibly financially unstable. That I can understand. And who knows, maybe Alec is. But are there many of you that are parents right now that would honestly have a stake in their kid's bank account unless you had some sort of plan or idea in your head that that could be a fallback for you? Not saying that you did it to take money out of your kid's account, but you can't sit there and tell me that you did that without the opportunity, without having known the opportunity could present itself to save them from themselves, which is what the parents are claiming they did. Essentially saying, we took the $500,000 to save our son from making a bad financial decision. That's what they are claiming. I'm not 100% sure because I don't know, the more and more I sniff around this, the more I'm looking at it, the more I'm just like, this kid was 21 years old and you thought it necessary to step in and essentially be a third party in his bank account.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I need to know how bad of a financial person Alec is to really understand.
One,
this.
yeah. And two, what type of agreements did the family make together?
And right now, the parents,
because obviously they wouldn't be able to do that without his, signature or, his agreement to do it. So I think it's more involved with what did the family as them three come down and say, this is our future. This is what we want to do, blah, 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 blah. And it sounds like, a 21-year-old dealing with his parents and needing their help with their assistance.
And now
I could see $500,000 being an insurance or to save himself. I can get that. But if he's going for $3 million, there's some definite other things going on. And how much is the girlfriend involved?
Well, that's what I was about to say. The $500,000 was just recently taken out this year when he's 29. That doesn't smell right to me.
No, and it doesn't smell right that they're still dealing with this 8 years later.
Absolutely. And again, it's just this entire story is weird. And you're right. How much does the girlfriend play into this? Because there are statements from the parents when all these conversations initially started, where Alec was asking questions and then apparently leaving the room to go make a phone call to essentially, I would assume, the girlfriend or some sort of representation, come back with more questions. And then they thought the entire situation was good and they, kind of washed their hands of it. And then a couple weeks later is when Alec comes down with the legal lawsuit against them, claiming that they were taking money out of his accounts for personal use. I told you guys when that came out, it was going to be really hard for him to prove that, especially if the parents are still paying for the majority of Alec's bills. At 29. Yeah. And again, and that's where I'm like, trying to wrap my head around this. Either Alec is a terrible, terrible financial person, as in he cannot handle money whatsoever and is probably incredibly frivolous and will be one of those athletes that'll be out of money quicker than he actually got it. Or this is a pair of really
crappy parents.
Yeah.
It could go both ways too.
Overzealous parents, like parents that are too worried that their kid is going to ruin his own life. Like, I don't know. But it definitely seems like one of those family situations where it's like, dude, can we just adjudicate this and get it figured out outside of court? It doesn't seem like this is one of those situations where you guys really even need to do all of this. And the real crux of all of this as well, at least from the parents' perspective, because they're trying to get the court case in Philadelphia dismissed completely. And I kind of get why. Because the LLCs are functioned and managed in Florida, which is where they're trying to get the arbitration to actually take place. His financial advisor, Alex, is in California. He's right here in our state. The only thing that took place in Philadelphia was the selling of a handful of stuff from Alex Foundation to charity. So realistically, none of the major wrongdoing outside of unless they had something to do with the stuff being sold, which that is connected to the story at some point. But from what I understand, Alex signed off on the stuff being sold to charities. So I don't necessarily see that being part of it. They have a case here because if it didn't take place in Philadelphia, why would a court case be filed in Philadelphia? It would make sense that it's either filed in California or Florida.
It seems like there's a lot of unanswered and paper trails
Right.
for the last 8 years. And it just so happened, one, I would want to know where the parents, what kind of profession were they in?
Right.
Was the dad a financial advisor? Did he work with finances?
Good question.
Is that why maybe he felt safe with his parents doing it? Or maybe their decision on who was going to handle the money as a financial advisor? And two, why? Why? Because there's obviously some serious trust and then some broken trust issues in the last 8 years that a parent or a son would want to take care of this in court, because
Right.
this seems like a family issue or a family trust that was something that they went in thinking we're all in for the same goal. And now 8 years, I mean,
Well,
almost 30 years old, and your parents are paying your bills.
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's where I need to know how deep this goes. Because if this is a situation, excuse me, like I said, where Alec is just a terrible financial, planner, then it makes sense that Daniel and Lisa want to just make sure he doesn't ruin his life and spend all of his money before his career is over. But at the same time, the fact that you put stake into your son's bank account at 21 years old, that doesn't smell right to me. Right before he signed his contract for the MLB, mind you. Like, if that was the case, why didn't you have a co-bank account before he ever even started playing baseball? And maybe they did and we just don't know it. But like that's where the gray area is. And you're right. How much is the girlfriend involved in this? Because I get it. You two have probably been dating for a while. You want to start your life together. And one, I understand her not wanting to live in a house that's owned by the parents. Totally understand that. But I also understand the parents being worried that this woman is just coming in to funnel money from you, because they do that all the time. The athletes get preyed upon all the time by not just women, but by people pretending to be their friends. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that these are just two concerned parents wanting to look out for their son. But there are parts of this story that really just do not smell right to me.
The whole thing.
Yeah, and it really does smell raunchy from their point more than it does from his.
I think it all smells.
Oh, it does. It all smells.
And
But I'm
as
just
a
saying,
parent, I'm thinking, okay, there's a reason that they were handling his money for this long. And I mean, just reading it, it makes the parents look horrible.
it does. And that's
But
why they're trying to, essentially clear their name.
they should.
Yes.
But I mean, without knowing their history, what kind of people they are, I mean,
And I honestly,
if my parents were taking care of my money at 21 and still doing it at 29, then you got some other issues.
right. And
And I
there's
would think a girlfriend stepping in saying, "What? What? Your parents are doing what? We
right.
got to put an end to this."
And also, here's a little caveat as well that I almost forgot to mention. His parents are also seeking compensation. Okay. So for those of you who are sitting there thinking, oh, of course they want more money. Hold on. What they're seeking compensation for is the 10% of the LLCs that they own. So essentially, they're telling their son, fine, your funds, that's fine, but you're going to pay us our 10% out of this LLC, which comes out to about $767,000. Now, that to me felt more like a parent sitting up and saying, you know what, you're 30,
Do it.
you're good.
Go pay your bills.
If
See
you
what
want to
happens.
go, yeah, if you want to go see how this works with this young lady, if you think that this is going to work out the way you think, fine. You're going to pay us out of our 10%, and we're going to get that figured out, because part of the entire situation is they still own 10% of your LLCs, homeboy, which means they do manage it. And that's the other, I mean, again, for the parents to tell him, oh, we don't manage any of your money, you manage it all yourself, blah, 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 blah. That also didn't sit well with me, because I'm sitting there thinking that's not true. You have 10% in their stake, which means, and obviously, just throwing this out there, you pulling out $500,000 of his money obviously proves he's not the sole manager of his money. So,
I mean, without looking at the contracts of the
yeah,
LLC,
that's the thing.
I'm sure there's more people than just them three.
There's a gray area to all of this. And yes, there are new financial advisors obviously being
And
thrown
I
into the
wouldn't
middle
be
of this.
surprised if there was other partners
Yeah.
that have been in that LLC since the beginning.
And they're hoping and praying, the parents of Alec Bohm, mind you, that this whole thing in Philadelphia can get dismissed and they can just figure this out and handle it as a family, quote unquote,
As they should.
in Florida. Yeah, as they should. But I agree with you, man. I really need to know more about the parents' background, what you guys used to do. Two, I need to know really more about the background of Alec Bohm and his past with financials. Because if he's just a bad financial planner, then I get it. But I think you brought up a really good point, Spark. If these guys have been managing his money for this long, going on 8 years, 7, 8 years, he can't be a good one. There's no way, because I don't know a lot of parents that would be in their mid 20-year-olds funds like that. I really don't, unless they are just that poor or the parents are just POSs and taking from their
And see, it
kids.
could very well be either one. I mean, I
Absolutely.
hopefully everything gets resolved outside of court and they can go their own ways, and it's not some money
This
hungry girlfriend that's trying
That's the
to
thing. This could be
devour
a
this family.
combination of about 18 different things. It could be, money grubbing girlfriend and really bad parents are fighting each other because they both want homeboy's money. It could be homeboy's just a really bad decision maker and the parents are trying to look out for him. Like, there could be a whole bunch of different things that go on with this story. And we're going to be hearing more about it as it goes because
And
this
I've
ain't
talked
going
to
anywhere.
former athletes that have made millions of dollars, and
Yep.
the number one thing they say is all their friends and cousins and third cousins, everybody comes out of the woodwork,
Yep.
and they
People you
all
didn't
have their
even
2 cents
know.
saying, "Oh, you should be doing this with your money. You should be doing that. Oh, my buddy's a financial guy. He'd help you."
He'd
Blah
help
blah
you
blah
out right
blah.
now, bro. Like, what to do? I got an investment for you. It'll make your money back no time at all, bro. I promise. That's what I'm saying. Like, there are people who prey upon others that know you are well off. And I don't want to throw his name out there, but those of you here in Bakersfield know exactly who the heck we're talking about. And we feel for this man every single day. He is more than welcome to sit in that chair and talk to us any day he would like to. And we can get into the deep parts of all of it if he wants. But realistically speaking, this isn't out of the realm of possibility that people could just be preying upon Alec Bohm, or it could be parents actually looking out for their son.
I hope so.
I hope it is the latter. I really do. But I'm not gonna lie.
Sure
The
the hell
more and
doesn't
more I
sound right.
smell, again, the more I read about this, and again, maybe that's the media's fault for phrasing it that way. But the more and more I read about this story, the more and more I'm sitting there hating the parents because I'm just like, dude, you clearly had some other intentions in mind. Like, there's just no way in my head that that's not the case. And then, real quick, before we go to our break and get to 24 kg on the other side, talk all things wrestling. Stefon Diggs began his legal trial against his former chef, Miss Jamila Adams, yesterday as well. He is claiming that all of what she is alleging against him is false, but she claims that he smacked him in the face with an open hand and then wrapped his arm around her neck, choking her, leaving her struggling for breath. This is all in the house while she was living there in her own room, where then she claims he threw her on the bed. Everybody else who lived in the house claims that they had not seen or heard anything out of the ordinary, period. There's more to this story that we will get to after 24 kg. But Stefon Diggs, former Patriot wide receiver, still free agent, has found himself in a little bit of legal trouble as well. We'll get into that after we talk a little wrestling with KG. This is the early bird special. We'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Nordic, the delicious daily detox that will keep you feeling your best. Search for Active Liver by Noon Nordic on Amazon or pick up some at your local CVS, Wegmans, or GNC.
This deer season, John Deere wants to give you the home field advantage. We're bringing you the best.
Welcome back. God, I wish I was fluent in Spanish. I would do this all in Spanish right now.
See,
This is the early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk 101.1 FM. It's time to talk a little wrestling. Usually we talk to our guy 24KG, but today we are calling in the expert, the luchador himself, Mr. Lobo Negro is joining us. Good morning, sir.
Yes, indeed. See, how's everybody doing this beautiful Cinco de Mayo
Good to see
weekend?
you, my
Just
friend.
passed, and we're keeping it going today on Tuesday, talking a whole bunch of luchador action. So I figure I'd get into my heritage and tap in with, you know what I'm saying, you know,
Well, I
the
mean,
Gold Wolf, man. I come from the darkest regions of the wrestling side of Mexico, but I'm
you're
working
absolutely
on
right.
this visa,
It's
and it's working
Lobo
good right
Oro. I
now.
apologize. You're right. It's Lobo Oro. It's
Yes. Thank you.
What do you want to start with, my friend? I mean, we had some incredible news over the weekend in the world of the WWE, which obviously we all got a chance to talk about on the phone, but we haven't got a chance to talk about on air. And that's the departure of not only
there's a
parts
new
of the
day
NXT.
here. There's a new
There's
day.
It's a new day. Yes, it is.
I just don't know if it's a good new day. I don't know.
I
What's the
think we're all
WWE going to be like without Xavier and Kofi?
Well, I think we're all kind of scratching our heads, but also more in shock. we just heard about these guys renewing their contract up until 2030.
Yeah.
Then to hear about a sudden restructuring almost reminds you of the Vince McMahon Bret Hart contracts back in the day. Hey, buddy, sign this 10-year contract. Then a year into it, we have to renegotiate terms. It's quite a black eye on the face of the current administration in TKO WWE. And hey, they felt like these guys were making too much money in an era where Roman Reigns is making 15 million and they're jerking him around in the same aspect.
Mhm.
I think it's almost more exciting to wonder if they're going to even show up on these shows that are coming up. If Roman's going to drop the title, there is so much in the air right now. In a negative aspect, I think it's enticing the viewership to WWE right now because, hey, I can't keep my luchador eyes off the screen.
It's been really fun to watch, but I mean, like we talked about on Saturday, it seems like the tag team division is really getting gutted right now. And I think that's on
Obliterated.
purpose. I think that they're really trying to find the next blue chip tag teams that they could really make WWE guys, if that makes sense. But I mean, what do you think is going to happen with the entire division? Obviously, right now it's being run by two groups that aren't traditional tag teams, but they're trying to kind of blend them together. I think Logan Paul and Austin Theory are kind of numbered, though, if I'm being honest.
I have to agree with you on that one, Chris, because these makeshift tag teams out of singles wrestlers isn't going to fly much longer if you really look at it. The tag team division has been decimated. And I think right now, I believe this is something that Sparky's even mentioned in the past. Why don't they just unify those tag belts? Let's just get it on over with, slap those things together. And because what tag division do we really have to where it's necessary to span two championship titles, tag team
True.
titles over
True.
both shows right now?
Fair.
Especially if their whole thing is, cutting the budget to save money and we have more titles, more tag teams to pay. Let's just condense this down from 20 teams to about 6 and see how it goes.
See, the more and more I'm looking at the state of the division right now, what we're getting, the more I'm reminded of that this is something they've done in the past, because what they like to do in the WWE is take a young up and comer, throw them in with a veteran as a tag team for a while, much like they've been doing with Lyra and Bailey for the last couple of months, and just say, hey, learn from this person, kind of see if you could float as a tag team wrestler first, and then we'll see if we can put you back in the singles card, because that's what we're getting right now, I think, with Ethan Page and Rusev. I think we're going to get that with Javon Evans eventually with somebody. I think you're going to get that with Joe Hendry at some point with somebody, maybe even a Seth Rollins. We don't know yet. But I keep reminding myself that maybe they're just trying to throw spaghetti against a wall and see who of the new up-and-comers is going to be able to sink or swim.
Yeah, it seems about that way right now. And unfortunately, the only people that are losing, other than the people's that are actually losing their jobs, are the fans.
Yeah, fair.
The New Day, let's just take, for instance, right here and start for them. They're not going to have a problem going anywhere or finding work, seeing as how AEW, New Japan, and everywhere else has been salivating for this generational tag team, to kind of come their way. And we never thought it would be possible. We never thought we'd see a Young Bucks or a New Day match or whatever they're going to be called. But now it's on the table of being a possibility. These guys, not just as wrestlers, TKO wanted to control their IP. The intellectual property of the New Day is worth more than what they're being paid currently on their contract as wrestlers, which they don't even get insurance for. So let's just get that straight. You've got the Up, Up, Down, Down channel with the Xavier Woods, which he founded basically. And, WWE acquired during a time where this video game surge and what we have in our culture now, the online gaming generation, meshes quite well with the WWE wrestling generation. The products that New Day has put out, from shirts to accessories to Booty-O cereal, these all these things are now WWE. So for them to want to, I have to say, take 60% of your current earnings, and then they're already taking 40% of your IP earnings and your internet, that's a whole lot of money. And then to chop that in half again, I can't blame these guys for standing on their morals and saying no and just walking off.
I wonder how much of this as well is kind of like a Dudley Boys situation. How much more can we really do here?
Yeah,
How much more?
they've done just I agree with you, Chris. They've done pretty much everything there is to do as a trio, as a
Exactly.
tag team, and almost as individuals. We didn't get that Xavier Woods singles championship run in any matter other than the King of the Ring, but that's not totally out of the question now. If we can see Austin Creed now somewhere else.
That's what I'm saying. I think that they're probably also thinking in their head, what more can we honestly do here? Neither of us are going to get taken seriously as singles wrestlers because there's too many of them here that are beloved by the writers. And let's be honest, when Big E was thrown out of the group, that was the best opportunity to have an incredible heel run for this group. And they did nothing. They did
Yeah.
absolutely nothing with it outside of just let the fans boo them while they tried to do promos, and we never got the full payoff of that. We never got the comeback WWE or Big E match that we thought we were going to get. And I think that was part of it. I think that just the floundering of that storyline made them realize they're not going to take us seriously and there's nothing left for us to do here. So why not leave and go see what we could do at a TNA or an AEW, which they've been, like you said, waiting to pretty much sign these guys for years because they have so many friends that work for both companies.
Definitely, Chris. But I'd also have to say the person who failed the New Day is the guy writing the storylines.
Fair.
Whoever didn't really follow through with that swing, it was a nice chip, as they say in golf, but nobody really followed through to sink that putt afterwards. It kind of floated stagnantly for a while. They attempted to revive the New Day with what was the guy, Odyssey Jones, who was released due to some controversy, who was found innocent of, never got a rehash, never got a shot, much like Enzo Amore. WWE has a zero tolerance policy when it comes to certain things like that, like most companies do. And then we had the Grayson Waller effect that really wasn't that effective. It just made us all scratch our heads and go, okay, so what's going to happen? Is he going to turn? Is he going to learn? What's going on here? And it's also a guy that's super talented that I'm kind of concerned about, seeing as how he's been fish food for the big shark Obafemi over there. And speaking of Obafemi, last night's Obafemi challenge kicked off in a very, I'd have to say, surprising way.
Yeah, that was an interesting little fake out that we got. It looked like it was going to be Tozawa at first, but my favorite part of that match though was Oba kind of like taking the comedic route, waiting for a sec to like size up Otis. It was like,
yeah, how am I going to do this? Because I even said at the beginning of the match, is he really going to like have to do the full motion power bomb to get this guy
300 pounds?
Solid. We're talking solid. This guy is like trying to carry a refrigerator on your back.
Yeah.
Now, if you grew up like me, you've probably seen some crackheads in the hood ride around with a refrigerator on their back on a bike. So it's possible, okay? But for him to go and tell the audience, hey, I'm going to use my brain, shows what they're trying to develop further with Obafemi's open challenge, as far as we're going to get real creative with this. This isn't going to be just something for you guys to see week after week. Hopefully it's not every week. We don't want to burn this out. But if it is, they're going to have to keep topping this level of either shock or creativity to where we continue to tune in.
Honestly,
yes. And that's exactly, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly what can happen if you do this the wrong way. We've seen it happen when they try to make monsters instead of letting them organically happen, such as Obafemi has naturally had the audience gravitate to him. We've seen the crowd turn on Goldberg. We've seen them turn on Braun Strowman. I think the only person we haven't seen them turn on is Bronson Reed, because of his ascension and how he's become such a beloved big guy.
Fair, but throwing a counterpoint to this, and to use as well, Sparky, because I'd love to get your thoughts on this. But what they're doing with Oba, in my opinion, is they're showing us a beast that also has a personality.
Definitely.
That's why guys like Bam Bam Bigelow, guys like The Undertaker, guys like Bronson Reed have a different feel than a guy like a Goldberg, because Goldberg was just a beast. In a way, Brock Lesnar was just one thing, a badass. He came
not too great on the mic, but impressive. Yes.
But because he didn't have a personality, it kind of made him one-dimensional in a way. What they're trying to show with Oba here is this guy's funny. This guy's actually got a great personality. He could connect to you as a fan. Oh, and by the way, he's the biggest SOB out here that could wreck shop and make everybody look like a little child.
Yeah, but they're
Very
gonna be
much.
they're gonna be reaching for straws if they don't get a big guy in there that can hold a match with him.
Yes.
Because this over and over and over is turning straight into Goldberg.
Yeah.
And we brought this up a month ago that this could be a direction if they don't get the writing down.
Mhm.
And I had 3 people that aren't big wrestling fans text me last night and said the same thing. I'm like, people are catching on already. If they don't throw some type of curveball, whether it's a Braun Strowman, whether we get a Bronson Reed back, but who else on this lineup in this roster can they do a match with that at least be a match more than a minute?
I agree with you, Sparky. I agree with you. Until they bring back a Drew McIntyre to really run into this guy.
Gunther.
Who else? Because at this point, he'll be taking on former world champions on the regular if we continue about this path. And, wrestling fans aren't stupid. This isn't the 80s. This isn't the 90s. This is probably the smartest era, how they say the Mark era, that people really know since kayfabe is dead. And it's a reality show now to see behind the scenes. People aren't as dumb to fall for the old, hey, look over there anymore when it comes to wrestling and the storylines and tricks that we've become accustomed to over the years.
No, absolutely. And I think this promo that John Cena has running right now with that WWE Universe thing hit it really well. Fans want to be closer to the product than ever, which is why they're trying to re-blur the line of reality and kayfabe so you can feel like you're right in the middle of it, while at the same time they're protecting their character and what they're doing behind the scenes. But I mean, I see your guys' point, especially when it comes to Oba. If we continue this route of him just running through everybody, it's just going to get boring. And you're right. But that's why they kind of have to throw him in one of these main card titles here right after Backlash, really, because if you don't, what's the point in doing all of this? Because we can see him run through the mid card until we're blue in the face, but it really isn't going to build his character at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Out there or something. I mean, something, mix it up.
Kalatonga, somebody bring back Omos. No, what was the other guy? Omos, the big Nigerian giant.
Oh yeah.
Omos doesn't have that kind of go though. Like I love what he's doing in AAA, but that's pretty much what Omos is good at.
Yeah. As far as guys that match up to his size, like there aren't that many people.
I mean, we haven't had a good story with Damien went for a while. Maybe something like that. Or I can see maybe, Gunther or somebody coming out in a black hoodie.
I think Damian might actually be the guy to help Oba progress and work as far as a big guy who can move and who's got experience on the roster.
But I'm still amazed every time that connection with him off the ropes last night, running into Otis.
Oh my God! Yeah, the flying lariat, that spinning lariat.
He's adapting his game, which I can appreciate. That's one of the big things that I hate about Gunther is it seems like it's the same thing over and over. And I get it when it's polished and it looks as good as it does, why change it? But when you adapt your game and you make it look different every
new move every week, folks.
It's so much fun to watch.
Gunther reminds me of Bob Backlund.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of the boring story. I mean, yes, he's a great wrestler.
A throwback to a tougher time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are people who love that. There are people who hate it. I respect it, but it's just one of those things. I enjoy somebody who's going to come with a creative mind and change this up. You know what I mean?
I can see Bret Hart over there. Oh, he's such a great wrestler.
Right.
After he just smoked about 5 bowls, we can't trust Uncle Bret right now.
No.
Bret been hanging with Snoop right now. So, hey, kudos to him. Shout out to Canada.
One of the other major players that's getting rocket strapped to his back right now that has a match at Backlash will be Danhausen, who is going to be his tag team partner. Everything that I keep seeing is we may get a potential Elton Prince return at Backlash, which would be fun. It was my understanding, though, that Elton was no longer with the WWE. Soon after his injury, he had walked away due to something that had to do with the woman he's dating or something of that nature. I can't remember what it was. But after looking into it a little bit more yesterday, he apparently is still contracted with the WWE and has been in rehab. So could we potentially be seeing a pretty deadly reunion?
I think, for the most part, seeing as how Danhausen's affiliation with CM Punk has become more involved in his vignettes and online, skits.
No.
I
You
think
think
we
he's
might
gonna-
get a surprise CM Punk appearance, tag team, whatever, with Danhausen. Seeing as how he has no match, he has no
Fair.
opponent, and
Fair.
this is light work to keep him on the bill, keep him, his
What
scheduled
happened with that?
appearances.
I
I
think
thought he
they're-
was gonna fight Cody in the beginning. I mean,
Unless
Cody
like,
just
he-
got choked out by Gunther. I don't know what they're doing over there at SmackDown right
unless
now.
they
It
do
seems
a
like they literally are just spitballing at the wall.
well, again,
I don't know what's
unless they
going
do a
on.
last second match like they used to do back in the 90s for these PLEs, I don't
Yeah.
see one getting booked on Friday.
nah.
Yeah.
I just can't see it. But you're right. I mean, at this point, are we going to get a triple threat between Gunther, Cody, and Punk? Are we just going to get Cody running through both of them separately? SmackDown has been weird, and that's why I don't think they need to go down to 2 hours. I think less time for writing is actually going to make this worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems
I
like it.
genuinely
I
do.
was
They're,
gonna
they're
ask
not
you-
allowing the stories to be flushed out fully, and they're just kind of hot shotting, seeing what
That's
works,
what
going for a
I'm kind
moment.
of like. Backlash is kind of like, okay, it's pretty much a Saturday night main event type PLE. But you brought up Roman in the beginning with the contract talks, and the beginning of Raw last night with Roman coming out all pissed and then stopped with Seth saying "you're in my way" type
That was
thing.
that was a
Okay,
prelude.
okay. And yeah, exactly. And Burdick has brought it up several times because this is something that we knew was going to happen sooner or later.
It makes money.
But I mean, with the money and with all that, I mean, I know the reports that came out saying Roman has cut off all his June dates for Raw that were already scheduled because they're trying to get him to take a pay cut. You know, Roman's not taking no pay cut. But what do you think about this Jacob Fatu match and with Roman?
I think what he said in the promo last night, he had an opportunity to really shoot on the current contract situation when he's alluding to WWE TKO wants to do business with me. This is my show. I'm feeding not just your family, 107 kids in our family. It was very telltale to the things they talk about when they're not on camera. You could really tell they worked some of that in there. But also, I think we're seeing a potential of Roman Reigns being legitimately threatened. Now, whether they follow through with it or not, we're just talking about right now, present time storyline. The Jacob Fatu factor has become more so real now than ever because of this Tongan death grip. This "where are the Usos" question all of a sudden when they keep insisting that we're here to make sure that nothing happens to our OTC, but 2 weeks in a row, he's ended up on his back pockets, choked out. This unhinged Jacob Fatu, I'm really loving because at the end of the day, how this storyline could potentially play out if Roman really has cut off his dates. And until further contract negotiation has been established, we could see a hot drop to this title. The Usos flip on Roman, and we have this Fatu faction, or like every Backlash that has come out previously for the last 3 or 4 years in a row, we've debuted a new member of the Samoan dynasty. Are we going to see a Zilla Fatu? A Lance Anuahi? I doubt Lance, seeing as how he's in Power Slapped and he was released just a few months ago. But this might be the opportunity, quiet as kept, for another hooded figure to make an appearance. And this time it's legitimately Zilla Fatu, Jacob Fatu's cousin, but ex-tag team partner.
See, I didn't know Lance was at Power Slap. That's interesting.
Yes. He won his debut, by the way, by slapping the blood out of someone's eardrum.
Oh,
in
interesting.
quite impressive fashion.
See, you can't headbutt a Samoan, nor can you slap him. Apparently,
No.
big no. I'm glad you brought up the Usos because I thought the same thing yesterday. It's like you're gonna sit there and claim we're gonna take care of everything if it goes haywire, and yet it goes haywire, and we don't even see you at ringside. But I think that's on purpose because, again, maybe this is just me kind of jumping back on the train that I've been on for the last couple of weeks. But I'm telling you, this is going to set up a literal Samoan council. We are going to get Jacob on the side of Roman Reigns at some point during this, because at some point it's going to be revealed. Roman sits there and says, "Yeah, that was by my design. I told the boys stay in the back. I wanted him to lash out. I wanted to do all of this. Why? Because I needed to assess what my new enforcer is going to look like." And if my
Nice.
new enforcer is going to be bloodthirsty enough to stand up to his tribal chief, then he's going to be bloodthirsty enough to take care of anybody else who wants to stand up to his tribal chief.
See, I see.
That's a good one.
I see Taller with Roman sooner or later too.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one too. I mean, all of them really would not.
Yeah.
I am biting to just I want Solo back in the mix because I liked him better with that.
I just don't want him to take the mouthpiece away. I want them to
He's the
allow him
funniest
to
one.
talk.
Yeah.
He's the one. He's the one with the most personality. Like, if you do put him back with Roman and the boys, continue to let him talk. Don't put him back as the silent enforcer that he used to be, because he is so much better now with the microphone.
Yeah, I don't think we can go back to that version of Solo right now. Over the year, that he's progressed, I think he would actually fall into more as a herald for the bloodline if they were ever to refold back in together. It would almost be like if Paul Heyman could fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I was just thinking that. Like, imagine him being the wise man. Imagine
that would be insane.
I actually, and now that I think about it, that would mean he pretty much has held every position in the bloodline except for the tribal chief.
Yeah,
at that point,
And
which would be an interesting story for him.
Speaking of the wise man, did you see Logan last night? This fool was getting ripped, man.
Yeah, I literally was watching that, and I said, to my girl,
this fool looks like Hulk Hogan.
Austin
Theory, the hormones are really kicking in with Logan Paul right there. Peptides, whatever he's doing, you're looking jacked, brother. Jacked and stacked right there. That the
Drug
baby
test.
oil's flowing. Yeah, I see a drug test coming in his future.
The real question, have either of you kind of lightened up to the Joe Hendry thing?
No.
No, look, I understand it. I respect it. Wave your hands from side to side. Uncle Book singing the song. But like Bret Hart would say, he's such a great wrestler. This guy's so awesome. I just don't get it. I respect it. But at the same time, however this guy made it, in Vince McMahon's WWE, this guy would be a jobber. Thank God we're not in that.
Absolutely fair.
Yeah, he would be right next to Barry Horowitz, the Duke the Dumpster, Grody, Repo Man, all that. He would be those guys. Remember the guy used to pat himself on the back? Brooklyn Brawler. Hey, but those guys are necessary in the business.
Exactly.
Because when the Brooklyn Brawler put over The Rock knew that was his time. These guys, it's nothing wrong with being a mid-carder, whatever type of thing. It just doesn't go over with some people. But Joe Hendry's character, I can't wait to see a mean Joe Hendry, a F that Joe Hendry, a breaking the guitar. I'm not singing for you people anymore. That's always a great story arc to see with characters who progressively start off nice, and then the audience turns on them, like how WWE always does.
We saw that with the Honky Tonk Man.
Yes.
Yeah, we seen that with Elias.
Yeah. No, I don't think we've ever actually seen that with Joe Hendry.
That would be awesome. Though. And you know what? I was watching Raw with my wife last night, and I was like, dude, that is what Homelander would be before he was a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
He just looks dead on. Yeah, he just looks dead on Homelander if he was a nice guy.
He's got a cash in crash out saved up. I can't wait to see Joe Hendry's crash out.
Well, that's why, honestly, I think because Joe is such a star in his own way, I feel like that's why it'd be a perfect pairing to throw him with a Seth Rollins, because one, Seth could teach him how to just kind of play the crowd a little bit more, but also you could teach him to have a little bit of a bad side to you too. Because you're right. Maybe it is just the overflowing baby face of it all. Kind of like how Dom is as a heel. You could be an overly, I can't use the words I want to use, but you get what I mean. You could be an overly awful heel. Just somebody that people can't stand. But if you try to be too much of a baby face, you actually come off as inauthentic.
Yep.
So maybe that's what it is, right?
And in Vince WWE, it would be him and Danhausen.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Judgment Day, that story is really lighting it up for me because
Roxy's turning.
Roxy is going to turn sooner or later, but the hammer to
and I think Raquel's turning with her.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I definitely see the changes in Raquel's facial expressions when it comes to certain things, especially when it concerns Liv.
Afterwards, dude, right when all them walked away and she looked at her and said, "Good job," and I said, that was on purpose. Like that, they're trying to hint at something here. And it's not that Raquel is happy that she's falling back in line with the Judgment Day. I think they both have a plan here to screw over Liv Morgan.
One thing I want to point out from last night's match between Finn Balor and JD McDonough was the fact that they were bold enough to end it and give a win to JD based off not just the hammer, the headbutt. If
That's a
Mhm.
we're
big
really
ass
gonna,
headbutt.
if they're really gonna lean into this, pun intended, with this headbutt, I think honestly, JD McDonough's career is about to go on the trajectory that we know this guy can handle.
As
Mhm.
it
Because
should.
they always make these head jokes about how large his cranium is. When he starts using that thing as a weapon, you going night night, baby. Peel your
Mhm.
muffin cap back, blue, black, all that. Go to
It's
sleep.
about time, dude. It's about
Yeah,
time. He deserves
yeah.
it.
I'm glad to see it.
Got the muffin cap back blue. That was funny.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
man.
am I the only one though that's kind of like over the ring bell hammer? Like, can we get
Yeah.
something more believable, especially with the way she used it? I was like, really? You took it and just kind of went me
Hey,
and
that
hit
was
the
a great
side?
toss. That was a great
Yeah,
toss and a great catch, though.
absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Like the
Yeah,
athleticism to get it done, 100%. I
yeah,
would have rather her take it though and pretend to have hit him on the back of the head or something. Like something a little more believable than just trying to punch him with it. I
yeah.
guess was the best way to put it. I don't really know, but I do think the inevitable Roxanne Perez turn is coming pretty
I
dang
had a
soon.
listener that
Yeah.
said Rox leaves with Dom.
I don't think Dom
Uh,
leaves too.
Oh,
I don't think.
well,
I
there,
think
well, there
Dom
was
lives
a little something going on between them in the beginning that kind of
before
they never revisited. But
seasoned it.
She may
yeah,
use that to blow up the Judgment Day and kind of like do the whole cheating thing that Liv did with Dom.
But
yeah,
who goes with
But
Liv? Because Liv's got to be behind somebody.
I have no idea. Liv could be by
yeah.
herself.
Yeah, at this point, before they take the title off of her or anything, she can
Liv and
go on a
Dom
nice
both.
little run. But
Yeah.
before we get out of here, especially for those that are in the chat, sound off. Reviews on the Netflix Hogan documentary. Have you guys taken the time? I felt like we've
Yeah,
seen everything in there over
that's
the
what we
years,
both
but
pretty much said. We talked about that about a week ago, Spark, when we both watched it. And honestly, it's all stuff that we knew already going in. The only thing that it really shed for me was the relationship a little bit more between him and his first wife and how toxic it was
She is
and how,
disgusting.
yeah, just a deplorable human being she really is. And really just the fact that Terry was so enamored with himself and with the character that spread into his life well past his career in wrestling, even to the points where we saw him at the end, where
yeah,
he believed that he was still the big star that we all remembered him to be.
We think he could have been the president and all that. Now,
Yeah,
one thing I did
exactly.
agree is the one time he said I should have just stopped after the
Yeah.
match with The Rock.
That spoke a
that
lot.
would have been the perfect leave right there for him because he kind of ended up, and I hate to say this, much like Ric Flair is right now. And let that be the example of knowing when to hang it up, step aside, not embarrass your children online or in public in their
Yeah.
profession, or yourself
I
for that
felt
matter.
so bad for his daughter, the one that had
Yeah,
been falling out with the family. I was like, God, you're the only sensible one in the family,
seems
dude.
like it.
Like,
You got
I don't know
you
how
got
you
his
did that.
you got his son over here just soaking it up, and we all
Yep.
know his past from Hogan Knows Best, and the tragedies that have struck that family over and over. But are you going to catch any sympathy from me? Hell no.
And that's what I left as well. I don't care for Terry or Hulk Hogan, if I'm being honest. He's not even on my Rushmore, but I do respect him for what he's done for the sport,
Definitely.
for what he has started.
There definitely wouldn't be no wrestling right now
No,
without him.
So
Yeah.
that I will agree to and absolutely acknowledge him for. But outside of that, this documentary didn't humanize him in any way for me. Didn't make
Nah.
me feel any pity for him. It just made me realize, wow, this guy's life was really a toxic wasteland.
Yeah.
Like,
If they're
was.
going to go into the darker side of wrestling, they might as well just will Brett out a big
Yeah.
bowl of those Snoop Dogg treats and let him
know-
just talk crap about everybody for an
You
hour.
know what's funny too, and I think this kind of ties into what we talked about with Rick Bentley yesterday, Spark. But these biopics and documentaries, which should be showing us the truth of what this person really went through in their lives and all the dark parts of it too. A lot of these are really only showing what we already know or the positive sides of things, which is a really big disappointment, especially for documentaries and docuseries. That's where I directly go for the information of all the bad stuff that nobody knew about. And it disappoints me when we see these series just not do that and just take the political route just so they can, egg on other people's fans, essentially.
Yeah, put a coat of polish over somebody's poop stain that they
Exactly.
left it in
Exactly.
their
But
career, you know?
it
Hey,
is what it
what to
is,
say?
man.
You can't polish a turd. People have
Nope.
tried.
No, you cannot. You can't put lipstick on a pig, my friend. So
Ah!
with that, though, we have run out of time, my friend. We will talk to you on Friday, right? You're going to be joining us at 8:30?
Yes, sir. Well,
Fantastic.
KG will be joining you.
I'm sorry, KG
Yes,
will be joining.
yes,
Unfortunately,
yes.
Mr. Lobo here does have
Yes.
the night off. He's got to go wrestle a bear as he usually does.
Yes, yes, indeed. The regular Tuesday night bear wrestling. Yes.
Thank you for your time, my friend. We appreciate you as always. And we will talk to KG on Friday a little bit more about Backlash ahead of this weekend's festivities. But we do have to take a break and get in some other stuff on the other side. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk. Welcome back. Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk 101.1 FM. Want to thank our guest of the day, Mr. El Oro Lobo. El Lobo Oro?
We finally get Chad Gable back after this.
Yeah, more than likely.
I think so.
Yeah, because they're going to be doing the mask versus mask match on AAA on the 30th, if I'm not mistaken, during their PLE. And I
Thank
do
God.
believe, because now, if you saw last night, the
Creeds.
Creed brothers are taking over as Bravo, and I can't even Julio, I think is what Julius is going as the original Americano group, which again, I think this is way too late. If you're going to do this, you should have done this a long time ago. But yeah, I do think we
I think he
inevitably get
sprinkled
Chad.
it in, finally saying, well, Chad Gable's on
Yeah.
the shelves.
And honestly, I think it's going to be an interesting character arc for him, because you could really take this into Chad Gable as a disrespectful wrestler for doing what he's been doing to luchadors in AAA, because there has been a long list and long line of wrestlers that he has been ripping the masks off of while wrestling them. And that, if you know about Lucha Libre, is a big no-no. Big no-no. You do not mess with the masks unless it's a mask versus mask match. You do not take the mask off your opponent. And he's been doing that a lot. So you could really take this as the Olympian wrestler is a disrespectful person, and make this a whole different level of a heel for me.
Yeah, it'll be much better too, I believe.
Honestly.
And I know we talked a lot about some court cases and some family stuff.
Yeah, but
and I did see that AJ Brown one was dismissed.
Yes, which is a good thing. And I honestly am glad to see that, especially with June 1st rolling around and a potential deal here being done to move him. If Philadelphia even wants to, as we've heard from Howie, because he's pretty much doubled down on saying it's hard to trade away a really good player, and I don't blame him. But as it sits, the last 2 years in a row, AJ has been very vocal about being upset with his usage in Philadelphia. I don't think it's going to get any better. I
Right.
really don't.
And the same thing with DK Metcalf.
Yep.
His court case was dropped. And one of those things, that was the one with the
Detroit fan. Yes. If you remember when DK Metcalf got into an altercation and swung on a Detroit Lions fan while actually, no, I apologize. He was actually a Steelers fan in Detroit.
Mhm.
I apologize. But he apparently had a past with DK, and this hasn't been the first time that this fan and DK Metcalf have been at odds with each other. So I think that's more why the case got dropped, is the person realized, oh, I'm not going to win this court case, and it's going to make me look terrible.
Mhm.
So
I just
DK,
wanna
we're going to
pay
go our
out.
separate ways.
Yeah, just leave. Just
And
go.
look, man, we said it at the time. We knew the severity of the situation and how much trouble DK could have been in if that wasn't the case. But there was rumor at the time that this was not the first time that those two had met, and that fan has actually been a very pesterous person.
Mouthy.
Yeah, with DK, and which is probably what the heck he was probably trying to show him on his phone, was something that DK isn't a fan of or knew about, that he didn't want the world knowing. And he was like, oh, this, that, or the other. I really don't know. But at the end of the day, it's good to see that DK is not going to get any trouble for this. It is going to be a major lesson for DK on the sideline, though, until, really him and every other hothead on the side. Just leave the fans alone. Don't get into altercations with them. Don't swing. Don't do anything. They're just being dumb, drunk fans. And look, some of these people really do mean harm. But if they're egging you on that bad, the harm that's going to be coming from it is going to be way worse than you just telling him to F off and giving him the finger like Gino did. And that honestly is why I said it the other day. I don't mind when a player looks at a fan and tells them to F off and shut up and all that type of stuff, because if you're going to be jawing at these guys, they have the right to jaw at you back. Now, if you get to an excessive extent where you're cussing the guy out or, getting physical with him, there's a problem. So hopefully this is a lesson to all NFL players. Just take the high road, pull a Geno Smith, flip out those birds, and just say, I'll take the fine later.
Speaking of the birds, I just saw that they just signed Dante Fowler, and something I wanted to bring up just because I know we've got a lot of Packer fans and Jordan Love being home, but I just saw that they picked up a backup quarterback.
Tyrod Taylor has a job, man. I mean, again,
gosh,
look what they did with Malik Willis.
Uh-huh.
And that's what Tyrod's thinking is, hey, man, I have I've got some talent left in me. I
I'm
could
better
make
than
this
Desmond
happen.
Ritter.
And at this point, Tyrod's career, I mean, is a testament in itself. Being a starter, having the team doctor puncture your lung. And at the time, too, you guys were on fire with the Chargers, man. We all thought Tyrod Taylor had found his new home and Justin Herbert was out of a job. Yeah, somebody in LA didn't like that storyline and said, he's got a doctor's appointment here in about 30 minutes. We're going to see what happens. No, I'm just joking.
There's all sorts of weird stuff going on with the NFL, but I wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to bring up any truth of the Cardinals going hard for Aaron Rodgers. I know that was been one of the headlines, and they would have to pay for it.
If they did, the Steelers do have the the unrestricted free agent tender, correct? Already placed on him, which they signed last week. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's very rarely used in the NFL, much like the tag that was slapped on Daniel Jones earlier in the year. Apparently, these teams are diving real deep into the rule book in the last couple of years. But basically, this is kind of like basketball, where if Aaron does decide to play, but not for the Steelers get compensated very, very heavily by the team who is taking him. And they also have essentially first right to match whatever contract that he gets offered.
That would be hilarious.
Right. I mean, again, if it was, I highly doubt it'd be for Arizona. No disrespect towards Arizona at all. But do you really think Aaron Rodgers wants to come back to play the 49ers, the Rams, and the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks twice a year?
I don't think he wants to play at all.
I don't
personally.
The more we wait, the more I'm just sitting there thinking, man, this guy is either the world's worst person with a cell phone, or he's not going to play football.
I don't see him playing.
I think there is a big piece of him that's probably sitting there thinking, I could, but do I want to?
Should I?
He's probably in the middle of a darkness retreat right now, for all we know. And it did take him until, June last year to sign the 1-year deal with Pittsburgh. So for all we know, he probably has a deal set in stone. He has a deal verbally, more than likely, with Pittsburgh, but hasn't signed anything yet. If he does come back to play, the only team I see him playing for is Pittsburgh. That's just the only thing that makes sense to me, because I don't think that he would take a gamble with the Cardinals. You're already a year in with the Steelers, and they went and got more pieces for you to throw to, more targets.
And a coach you know.
Yeah, and a coach that you know very well, and an offense you know very well. So why would he walk away from that?
Because it's Aaron Rodgers.
True, but again, I don't know. I really started to feel like you are, man. I think the longer we wait, the less likely he comes back at all.
And Pittsburgh is not happy with it, because they wouldn't be signing that tender. They wouldn't be going out these exclusive rights.
Essentially
blah, blah, blah,
giving him a timeline for when he has to sign this, or they're moving on.
And I know I heard from McCarthy in a podcast that he was expecting to know before they went into the draft.
Yep.
And that's why they got a security blanket with the quarterback late. But
yep,
I personally don't think he comes back. And good luck.
This is also great way to get out on, a positive step forward, a positive foot, and all that type of stuff with your new head coach, new old head coach, who already went to the media and vouched for you, pretty much saying that the relationship between the two of you is great. We have no fighting. What are you talking about? The stuff that happened at the end of my tenure with the Packers has nothing to do with what's going on in Pittsburgh, which we all know is absolute hogwash. And more than likely, you two have maybe, shaking hands and let bygones be bygones, as men usually do with people who we're not really fond with. But you guys aren't buddies. You guys definitely are on the good or the best of terms.
Doesn't mean they like each other.
Exactly. And for Aaron to really pretty much leave him out in limbo and not knowing if he's even going to play for him. If I'm McCarthy, I'm looking at Howard and Aller and saying, get ready. We're just going with the two of you. And if he shows up, he shows up. But at this point, he's going to have to fight for that first spot back. I know it's Aaron Rodgers. I know who he is. I've coached the guy. But at this point, the two of you have a leg up on him. And if either of you look better than him in camp, you're the starter. I think that would send a message more to Aaron Rodgers than anything.
Say peace.
Exactly. But this is the NFL. They're going to do the political answer for their players. And most likely, they're going to bend the knee to Aaron Rodgers, as they usually do. So he'll come play in Pittsburgh, which again, I don't think that's a real help for anybody in Pittsburgh, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think he gets you closer to a Super Bowl, but I'm not a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, nor am I in the front office. So obviously they have their own plans and we'll see what happens with them. Let's take a break. On the other side, Anthony Richardson has decided to end his absence from the Colts as well. Smart, since he's pretty much, well, playing for a job at this point. And we have some more stories to get to at some point. Maybe we'll get into a little bit more of the Stefon Diggs thing because, again, this story is just so weird. I'm not 100% sure exactly why it's all coming to a head right now. Maybe it's just because he's a free agent looking for a job. But it really does, from the majority I've read here, seem like it's one of those where he's kind of being lied about. But again, and this is from an outside perspective looking in. We'll get into that plus much, much more. This is the this is the early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk.
greatest karaoke song on the planet. From Pee Wee Herman. Real quick, before we get out of here for the day, this is the early bird special, by the way, on KGEO Sports Talk. If you didn't know already, you can follow us all over the place, all on every social media platform, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, all that type of good stuff. Let's run down some of these stories real quick before we get out of here. We'll get to most of the information on a lot of them tomorrow when we have a little more time. I already told you, Anthony Richardson has decided to end his absence from the Colts and rejoin them as workouts progress, which is a good thing because this boy is desperately looking for a job after the Colts have just declined his fifth-year option, which means he going to be a free agent next year, and they don't care where he goes. And I
He's
don't
happy
blame
about
them.
it, too.
I'm sure he is, but he's still got a lot more to prove, in my opinion, than a lot of other people at that position. The other news out of the quarterback room, Russell Wilson looks like he's looking for a TV job now, as it's been a little rough comings for the free agent quarterback to find a new home. But CBS, apparently, and NFL Today, the pregame show, is looking for a new quarterback to, throw their thoughts around as Matt Ryan left for his job with the Atlanta Falcons as president of football operations. Right now, it seems like the job will most likely go to either Russell Wilson or Hall of Fame linebacker Luke Kuechly, also in the mix for the job. Hopefully, I'd rather see Luke Kuechly, if I'm being completely honest with you. But it's a quarterback-driven league, and I think every show at this point is looking for some sort of former quarterback really to sit in that chair and give you their thoughts. And then one last story, and we'll get to this tomorrow for sure because it has to do with Sparky's Bulls, and they're finally making some solid moves here, in my opinion. But Bulls have hired executive Bryson Graham from the Atlanta Hawks, the senior vice president, as their new as their new head of front office. Former vice president of the Hawks will now be going to the Bulls. He's got a great draft record. And honestly, hopefully, he could figure out some big men to throw into this team, play with some of these dang guards they have in Chicago. But we'll get into that and a ton more tomorrow. We got a couple game ones in round 2 for you tonight. Cleveland and Detroit, as well as LA and Oklahoma City. We'll talk about that and much more, as well as have some guests in here for you. Jay Bird and Scarlett from Ronald McDonald House. But this is the Early Bird Special. We'll be back tomorrow. Sparky, let's get out of here.